This night changed everything. Anthony Joshua was on top of the boxing world in 2019, having captured major heavyweight titles with multiple title defenses and a great resume to back. However, all that would change when he would take a short notice tune-up fight against a relatively unknown challenger in Andy Ruiz, where AJ would lose his undefeated record and change his career trajectory. So this is the night that broke Anthony Joshua.
But before we get into that, we're Punch Talk, going to bring you daily combat sports videos, so if you enjoy the content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel. So AJ was making a splash in the pro scene early on into his career after capturing that gold medal in the Olympics, having a decent amateur career, destroying the likes of Dillian White on the come up, Charles Martin, Dominic Breazeale, Eric Molina, and obviously that massive fight against Vladimir Klitschko in 2017 at Wembley, and one of the craziest, best fights of Anthony Joshua's career, back and forth in moments. Klitschko goes down, AJ goes down, Klitschko gets stopped, and this was the making of a star for Anthony Joshua early on into his career. He was a phenom, knockouts left and right, stopping everyone, but after beating Carlos Takam, beating Joseph Parker, Povetkin, and finally he would be matched against Jarrell Big Baby Miller in a fight that had a lot of build up, a lot of anticipation. The press conferences got heated. This was a big fight for AJ, and then Big Baby Miller pops for pretty much every steroid in the book, and in comes the Mexican destroyer in Andy Ruiz, who everyone was counting out. Just comparing their physiques side by side, Anthony Joshua, a professional, a chiseled 250 pounds, 6'5" guy, and then Andy Ruiz, a heavier but had quick hands, only lost to Joseph Parker at the time in a pretty close fight. So everyone was kind of expecting AJ to just have another emphatic knockout like he has been in his last couple of fights, as he has since he turned pro, and while he dropped Ruiz in that third round in one of the greatest rounds in boxing, the tides would end up quickly changing.
Yeah, Ruiz was completely expected to lose, and it seemed like the fight had all the makings of that, with Ruiz going down already in the third round. People thought Joshua would just finish him shortly after, and there was really zero expectations for Andy Ruiz. Like you said, he lost against Joseph Parker, which was his first opportunity to fight for a belt, the WBO World Heavyweight, when it was vacant. But that was his most notable opponent he's faced before Joshua, and he lost that fight. Short notice, the physiques like you said, and with getting dropped in the third round, it just seemed like this was going to be over very shortly in the next few rounds. But we see Andy Ruiz not bothered, not fazed by getting dropped. He gets up in that third round and then would go on to put on a dominant remainder of that round, putting down Joshua twice in the remainder of that third round, completely shocking everyone in attendance, everyone watching around the world. Couldn't believe that Joshua had got dropped for the first time since he fought against Vladimir Klitschko, and all of a sudden the tides have completely changed. The undefeated Joshua was in deep trouble, in deep waters, and for the first time we were really seeing him get tested. And it would be a huge question to see how he would adjust to this. It seemed already off the bat like his body language was completely off. After getting dropped twice, he didn't really seem too interested. He had a hard time trying to get his legs back into the fight, was very wobbly, and you could just tell mentally from the remainder of that fight he wasn't really in it. And it was kind of weird to see too, because he had seen adversity before and he had come back and done well and won fights. But now in this one against Ruiz, it just came completely unexpected, and we were really seeing Joshua get put to the test.
Yeah, what really done it was the temple shot from Andy Ruiz, which had a horrible reaction from AJ and got him put down multiple times. And like you said, the legs really never came back. He tried to recover in the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, but it was just too little, too late. Andy Ruiz started to get some momentum. It seemed like in every sequence, Joshua just couldn't really get started. He couldn't find that same success he had early on into that third round, and that was just because Andy Ruiz landed that clean shot on the button, on the temple, and Joshua was never the same. He got dropped twice again in that 7th round and finally got stopped, with Andy Ruiz taking Joshua's undefeated record, taking his belts, and showing up in one of the biggest upsets in recent boxing history. And this was Ruiz's crowning moment. He broke through and beat the champ, beat the guy that everyone thought was going to be the future face of heavyweight boxing, which, I mean, AJ had so much momentum going into this fight. He had all the promise, all the makings of the next star in British boxing and heavyweight heavyweight boxing as a whole. He had the look, he had the charisma, not too much of a trash talker, but still had huge exciting fights and big fight build-ups like the Jarrell Miller fight, which obviously didn't end up materializing, but still Ruiz had finally done it, and obviously AJ wanted to get that one back. He wanted to go in back again into a rematch, which Ruiz didn't necessarily take too seriously, coming in almost 20 pounds heavier than that first fight. And while Joshua got 10 pounds smaller in that rematch, he didn't really take much risk. He didn't really try to go to war like he used to and put on a dominating, devastating performance and try to hurt Ruiz. He played it pretty safe and cruised to a unanimous decision win. But this is where a lot of people would say that Joshua kind of lost that killer instinct, that edge of really just wanting to hurt all his opponents, put them out, because when he hurt Ruiz in that first fight, he finally had his moment. Ruiz came back, and that's where Joshua got clipped. Joshua was never the same in that fight, so he started to fight a lot more cautious.
Yeah, mentally it definitely seemed like a massive switch for Joshua. Being so dominant in your career and living up to all the hype, all the promise, becoming champion, and then going up against a guy that's such the underdog, doesn't look the part, and then getting dropped multiple times and then finished, it would definitely affect a fighter mentally, and that's for sure what we saw with Joshua. Although he did have a good win coming back, like you said, it was boring, it wasn't the typical Joshua aggressiveness, and although we did see that Joshua can be more than just a power puncher, he can box nicely with his fundamentals, using his jab, and not just relying on being such a force, did also show some of the cracks we saw. And I think it all was showing in that first Ruiz fight. Even when he got dropped the first time in the 7th round, you could see he was smiling. He was in his corner. He didn't really want to move out of there. It didn't seem like he was engaged at all. And it seemed like he didn't want to get into the fight, and honestly looked like he just quit pretty much completely. If you're the champion, you want to see the guy coming back out there, doing his all to get back into the fight, regardless of if he's been dropped multiple times. But Joshua just did not have that approach. And I think it's for sure switched his mentality ever since.
Yeah, Joshua would come back and knock out Kubrat Pulev the next year, but not really a Pulev at his best, a pretty past his prime Pulev. Then he would meet Alexander Usyk in a fight that was pretty 50-50 going into that first fight. Both guys Olympic gold medalists, but Usyk, coming up from cruiserweight after being undisputed there, had a decent run at heavyweight up until that point. He fought Derek Chisora in a kind of competitive fight, beat Chaz Witherspoon, and a lot of people thought AJ was back. He was going to be able to bully Usyk as the bigger man, go into that ring, try to employ that roughhousing game plan, but we didn't really see that. It was kind of AJ trying to outbox just the better boxer, the slicker mover, the lighter on his feet guy. Usyk was clipping him left and right with the straight left, early on the jabs, the lead hand games. AJ just really couldn't find his timing in those fights. He fought Usyk twice, came up short both times, and neither time really went for broke. Never really gave his all into it, which I feel like if you're fighting Usyk, you can't just try to go out there and box. You have to either bully him or at least take the biggest risks, roll the dice, put everything you have into it. And yes, Joshua did show heart. He showed that he wouldn't go down. There were moments where he was on the ropes, he was crumbling, but he stayed on his feet and made it out. Sure, the level of competition definitely increased massively, but it felt like Joshua could have done a little bit more to really just impose that killer instinct in these fights, which we didn't really see.
So then coming from the Usyk fight, Anthony Joshua was definitely starting to get older now, and many were doubting his possibility of coming back, being the future that he was once seen to be, and it had seemed like the heavyweight division has kind of went past him. Many people didn't see him as the top heavyweight anymore like they used to, but regardless, he would have a comeback fight against Jermaine Franklin, in which he won by unanimous decision. But after that, he would fight Robert Helenius, who he KO'd very easily, but Helenius has gotten knocked out by many guys before very early too. But then this would all cultivate into Riyadh's season, where he went up against Otto Wallen, who was tough competition, but Joshua managed to get the win in there, and was starting to prove in there that he maybe wasn't fully gone and he can still compete. But then had a payday fight against Francis Ngannou, knocking him out brutally, which really got the hype around him. Granted that Francis took Tyson Fury to a decision, many thought he won, and would finally get his chance again for a belt against Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, at the time, AJ was on a great 4-fight win streak. He was on a great run, 3 stoppages back to back to back. But honestly, when you look at that resume, not the highest level of competition there. That was his second boxing match ever, and maybe didn't warrant the hype that it gave him at the time, as he would meet Daniel Dubois, who's kind of in the position that AJ was just a couple years ago, a young upcoming heavyweight. Went out there and put a dominating performance on AJ, dropping him multiple times. AJ was really just never able to get started. He tried to go for broke in that 5th round, but ended up just getting knocked out after kind of stumbling Dubois a little bit. But overall, really not having many moments in that fight whatsoever. And this is the last we would see of Joshua up until this point, until he makes his return probably towards the end of this year or maybe next, which I would like to see him personally up against the likes of Tyson Fury. But so far, it just hasn't seemed like, since that Andy Ruiz fight, we've seen the same AJ, that same young, hungry dog who is going to go to war, is going to put everything out there to stop you, to knock you out, to drop you. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. What's next for AJ now? And if you guys enjoyed and want to see more boxing, check out this YouTuber will be world champion on screen now.